And again, I'm just going to take it slow for through these first couple of slides so we can allow everyone to get signed on. But again, I want to welcome everybody to the third community workshop for the Rocklin Road Sierra College Corridor Multimodal Enhancement Project. That is not a handful. We are excited to be back with you all tonight and really appreciate you spending your time with us for an update on this project. My name is Katie DeMeo. I'm from AIM Consulting. I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting. Before we get into the presentation, I want to go over a few of the Zoom instructions. So again, I know that we have been in Zoom for almost 2 years now, but I just want to go over a few of the instructions since this is a virtual meeting. First thing is this meeting is being recorded tonight. That way we can put it onto our project website in the future, or anyone who has missed tonight's meeting. Everybody here has been put on mute due to limit background noise. There'll be an opportunity for you to put questions in the chat box during any time of the presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end to go through a question and answer session, and you'll have an opportunity to raise your hand, unmute yourself, and talk directly to the project team during that time. So again, please use the chat box down below in your Zoom tools to put a question during the presentation anytime that you might need. So from there, I want to do a brief introduction of our project team that we have here on the call here. From the city of Rocklin, we have Matt McClure. From the Jacobs engineering team, we have Luke McNeil-Caird. We have Michael Robinson and Matthew Frank. And again, my name is Katie DeMeo from AIM Consulting, and I have Alyssa Thurman on the line as well to help out with anybody who has any technical issues. So again, I'm going to go through the quick agenda for tonight. So after this, I'm going to just touch upon a little bit of the community outreach that's been done for the project so far. Then I'm going to turn it over to our project team, who will be able to go through the presentation and some of the project background. And like I mentioned, we'll have plenty of time to answer your questions and answers at the end and do a wrap up in the next steps. So the next I'd like to mention is, as I've mentioned, this is not the first time that we've been in front of you all. This workshop here is the culmination of an 18-month-long stakeholder process. We've started with our stakeholder and property meetings. We've done site visits, and again, 2 prior workshops to this. We established a project website that was established at the beginning of this project, and we've had a very successful community survey so far. Our outreach practices have included engagement practices for historically disadvantaged communities. We did pop-ups where we went into the community, we met them where they usually gather and they shop, and we've been connecting with CBOs, community organizations, to help propel this message into some hard-to-reach communities, including the ones you see here on the map. Finally, we also delivered some flyers to businesses and some communities throughout Rocklin. We really want to ensure that every voice has been heard in this process. And so now it's my pleasure to turn the program over to Matt McClure with the city.
All right, thank you everyone for taking time out of your evening to join us tonight. I just wanted to go over some project history. This project originally dated back to 2011, 2012, where 3 additional concepts were being looked at as part of the initial project. And the concept 1 was a flyover, a westbound on-ramp flyover. So more towards Sierra College, and at the Aguilar Road intersection, an on-ramp would start and go over to the westbound on-ramp. That concept proved to require too much right-of-way acquisition, and it just couldn't fit in the land we had available to us. Concept 2 looked at adding roundabouts at both the west and eastbound on-ramp intersections. Roundabouts have worked in Rocklin and other locations, but due to the installation of ramp metering, traffic would back up and essentially create gridlock in those roundabouts. So those we moved on from those. And then concept 3 was to widen Rocklin Road to 3 lanes in both directions through the extent of the project limits. And that was extremely costly. So at that time, the project stalled out, and we have moved on now to what we're looking at now, which is the diverging diamond interchange. We had a feasibility study completed in 2020, And then after that proved that a diverging diamond could function in this interchange, we began the environmental document process, which we are currently in. We started that back in July of 2021. And about a year later, in July of 2022, the first initial draft project report was submitted to both the city and Caltrans for review, and different iterations have been, comments are going back and forth on that. So that is currently where we are at for the project history. Katie briefly touched on public outreach that has been done specifically for this project, but there has been public outreach done on a broader spectrum. Placer County Planning Transportation Agency back in 2017 did a bike way survey. And as part of that survey, this graphic shows some of the comments that were gathered of not having connectivity from one side of Interstate 80 to the other within Rocklin, specifically at the Rocklin Road I-80 interchange. So it's been a while that the community has been saying we need to address modes of transportation besides vehicle traffic. So that is what we're trying to address here. And this slide is showing that our trail connectivity, there are gaps. And one of the big gaps, as you can see in the purple area there, is Interstate 80 along Rocklin Road. Currently, the only way to get on trails is to go up to Sierra College Boulevard, which has even more congestion than Rocklin Road, or you can go cross over in Roseville. Both are relatively out of the way for traffic that we are looking to capture, and maybe change some modes of travel within the project limits. So that is, this project is looking to close that gap. As well as we're looking to assist middle school students. If you currently live on the east side of Interstate 80 and attend Springview Middle School, it's difficult to walk or ride your bike to school. So one of the hopes of this project is providing that connectivity, so children going to Springview Middle School have the option to walk or bicycle in a safer manner than they currently have today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Luke with Jacobs Engineering.
Evening, everyone. Again, thank you for taking the time. All the project outreach that we've done to date and the project history, we worked to develop goals for the project. And so you've heard a lot about pedestrian and bicyclists. So we're looking to improve access through the interchange. We're also looking to increase the movement of people and goods and enhance safety as we develop this project. We developed this graphic that kind of shows some of the barriers for bicyclists and pedestrians, especially for American Disabilities Act. Some of the things that get in the way, and what we've really heard from the community is they would like a separated bicycle and pedestrian facility. So you're going to see some of those as we go through the project alternatives. One of the big things that came out to us is there's about 23,000 vehicles per day on Rocklin Road. And that's going to continue to increase. But of those 23,000 vehicles per day, we looked at cell phone data. About 5,000 of them are driving less than 1 mile. So there's a real opportunity here with Sierra College and their 14,000 students for some more walking and biking along the corridor. So we actually have a video here that's going to describe what a diverging diamond interchange is, and then it's going to walk you through the two proposed alternatives for pedestrian and bicycles. And laser pointer off. Here we go.
The City of Rocklin, in cooperation with Caltrans, proposes to modify the existing Interstate 80 Rocklin Road interchange in Placer County to improve pedestrian and bicycle access, increase movement of people and goods, and enhance safety. The interchange is the gateway to downtown Rocklin and access to Sierra Community College. Rocklin Road improvements will include a diverging diamond interchange and a separated bicycle and pedestrian path. Interstate 80 improvements include eastbound off-ramp widening and ramp meter installation on the eastbound and westbound on-ramps. Alternative 1 includes a separated bicycle and pedestrian overcrossing of Interstate 80. The overcrossing alternatives utilize the ramp infield areas north of Rocklin Road to ramp up a bicycle and pedestrian overcrossing of Interstate 80. Alternative 2 features a bicycle and pedestrian undercrossing of Interstate 80. Will include a path of travel parallel to Rocklin Road with modifications to the existing Interstate 80 bridge to accommodate the designated path. Traffic on Rocklin Road will be controlled by a traffic signal on either side of the I-80 underpass, similar to today. At these signals, eastbound and westbound traffic will cross to the opposite sides of the road, travel under Interstate 80, then cross back to the other side of the road. The crossover movement allows a free left turn onto Interstate 80 for eastbound and westbound traffic. The westbound off-ramp from I-80 will be realigned to accommodate the DDI configuration. Drivers turning left or right on Rocklin Road will experience a single traffic signal at the DDI crossover location. The westbound on-ramp will include a designated right turn from Rocklin Road, a 2-lane ramp meter, and a single-lane merge onto Interstate 80. The eastbound off-ramp from I-80 will be widened from 3 to 4 lanes at the intersection of Rocklin Road, 2 for left turn and 2 for the right turn onto Rocklin Road. The I-80 eastbound on-ramp will still be a single-lane merge. The right turn on Rocklin Road will yield to the free left turn. A ramp meter will be installed with the ramp improvements, and the mainline merge length will increase. Mainline I-80 travelers will experience little modifications from the Rocklin Road interchange improvements. Will be a visual gateway with the Alternative 1 overcrossing. The City of Rocklin is excited for an opportunity to create a visual gateway into the city with signature landscape architecture and city branding on the pedestrian overcrossing of Interstate 80. The City of Rocklin is committed to cooperation with community and agency partners to increase the safety for vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists at Rocklin Road and Interstate 80. Studies show that diverging diamond interchanges create a reduction in crashes and increase the movement of people and goods. The separated pedestrian and bicycle alternatives also provide a path outside of the Rocklin Road travelway for non-vehicular traffic to cross Interstate 80 and access Sierra Community College and downtown Rocklin.
Katie, maybe you can give me a thumbs up that you could hear the video. Yes. Okay. I will say if you were having bandwidth issues or couldn't hear the video clearly, we will be adding it to the website for the project, and you can view it there also. So as part of our public outreach, we've been gaining feedback. We did originally have 5 different options for pedestrian and bicycle improvements, and last community meeting, we ranked those. And one of the options was to do an undercrossing of Interstate 80 that was not adjacent to Rocklin Road. And we heard loud and clear from the public that there was potential for homelessness issues and illegal activity in this crossing. So it was eliminated from consideration. So what we're bringing you tonight is we've gone through the Caltrans review process and the city review process, and we refined things. We've worked with property owners adjacent to the interchange to develop these 2 alternatives. And we're proposing these 2 alternatives to move forward in the environmental document that will be released for public review. So this is alternative 1. This is the pedestrian bicycle overcrossing. So the overcrossing is going to go up and over Interstate 80, and I'm just going to use a laser pointer here. For the diverging diamond interchange, as the video showed, if you were coming from Sierra College, you would come along Rocklin Road and you're going to go through the signal to the other side of the roadway. And then if you're getting on Interstate 80 westbound, you're going to have a free movement onto the ramp to head towards Sacramento. If you're continuing on Rocklin Road towards downtown, you would then come to a second signal and go through that signal back to the other side and continue on. Same with eastbound. If you're coming from Rocklin Road, you're going to come to a signal. You're going to go through that signal to the other side of the roadway. You'll have a free left turn onto Interstate 80 eastbound towards Auburn, or if you want to continue on towards Sierra College, you would go through that second signal. and that's the diverging diamond interchange concept. With this pedestrian bicycle overcrossing, I've put some of the distances. This was a big concern about alternative one, is the out of distance travel for pedestrian and bicyclists. You can see if you were just to walk along the roadway, be about 670 feet from Aguilar Road towards the west side of the interchange there. With alternative one, we are creating some out of direction travel because we need to get up to Interstate 80 and then over Interstate 80. So it's about 2,405 feet along the path. And then we have added staircases so that if you need a little more direct path, you can use the staircases. That's about 890 feet. And I will say we did a tour of Sierra College with Willie Duncan, the president of Sierra College. And one thing that he did let us know is that a lot of the students now have electric scooters, have electric bikes. And so this out of direction travel is maybe not as big an issue as it was 20 years ago, where everyone was walking and biking without electricity to assist. We know that out of direction travel is a concern, but one of the benefits of alternative one is that we've modified since the last time you saw it. The overcrossing now goes over the eastbound on-ramp, so no longer will pedestrians and bicyclists have to deal with this left turn and this right turn movement. It would be a yield situation, and you can see Sierra Foothills Cycling Club has now supported alternative one because of this improvement. Alternative two is exactly the same for the diverging diamond interchange. So in terms of the roadway improvements, it's exactly the same. The only difference is that the pedestrian bicycle path would go under Interstate 80. So as you can see by the distances shown here, along the existing roadway, as noted before, be about 670 feet. With alternative two, it's a much more direct path. It's 730 feet. The difference being that at the eastbound on-ramp, pedestrians and bicyclists are going to have to cross these ramps, and they're a yield situation with vehicles. So there is the concern about pedestrian and bicycle conflicts with vehicles at this location. I did want to mention Aguilar Road here. If you are a bicyclist and you're coming along this path, you're going to be able to hit a pedestrian bicycle button to turn the signal, and there will be an all pedestrian bicycle phase. And so you'll be able to cross diagonally across this intersection to get in the bike lane. Same at Granite Drive. If you're coming out of downtown as a bicyclist or pedestrian, you'll be able to hit the button, push the button, and get an all pedestrian bicycle phase here and be able to cross diagonally across the intersection to get into this trail here. And so you won't have to cross twice. And so that's helping to facilitate bicycle and pedestrian movement. One of the other things we wanted to do was connect up the schools. We have Springview Middle School over on the far left side here on 5th Street. We have Rocklin Elementary School at Myers Street here, and then we have Sierra College over at Eldon. And so one thing that we're planning to do, if you look on the left side here, is to stripe all the bike lanes that are currently already out there, to paint them green so that there's clear indication to motorists where the space for bicyclists are. And this would connect up all three schools. So we'd have the painted green bike lanes down 5th Street, down Rocklin Road, up Myers Street, and then over to Sierra College to help facilitate travel for bicyclists. We have been meeting for the last 18 months with property owners in this area. One of the things we've tried to avoid is taking any buildings of property owners. You can see here under alternative one, because of the bicycle pedestrian overcrossing, the impact to this parcel could be substantial. So from an environmental perspective, we're assuming that we need to acquire this entire parcel. With that acquisition, there may be the potential in the future to provide a direct connection into Sierra College if we were to acquire that whole parcel. Along the southeast quadrant where ARCO is, we're just doing temporary construction easements. We don't actually have to acquire permanent acquisitions. Same over here where Starbucks is. We're not doing any permanent acquisitions, just temporary construction easements during construction. Along Rocklin Road on the southbound side here, we are having to acquire a sliver of right-of-way along RBs and 76. And there are some potential impacts to 76 site that might require some of the gas pumps to be relocated. And then for the hotel along the westbound on-ramp here, we're doing some right-of-way acquisitions. Again, just slivers of right-of-way, and we've been coordinating with all of these property owners. For alternative 2, it's the exact same except for the northeast quadrant. Because we're crossing the eastbound on-ramp, pedestrians and bicycles are crossing here, it's not going over. There's no need to acquire this full parcel, so we're just doing sliver acquisitions along the frontage of the parcel, but all other acquisitions are the same. And then I did want to just touch on the westbound on-ramp. This is something that's relatively new that we haven't presented at previous meetings, so I just wanted to show this in more detail. We have early toast here where we would do a temporary construction easement. So it would just, we would just get in there to construct things during construction, and then that property would be returned to its original state after construction was over. But along Sure State Plus Hotel, we do need to acquire the landscape strip along here, and we've been coordinating with the hotel property owner there. We have developed landscape concepts for each alternative. And so the idea here is to maintain what's out there. There's a lot of monumentation related to granite along the eastbound off-ramp. So we're going to reconfigure that, but really maintain the character that's already out there. With the pedestrian bicycle paths, we are trying to maintain the existing oak trees that are in the area, so we can provide shade in those paths. And the natural granite, exposed granite on the north and south sides of Rocklin Road would also be working to maintain that, that aesthetic that's in the area. You saw this in the video. This is the, for alternative 1 for the pedestrian bicycle overcrossing. There would be a signage, kind of an entry gateway to the city of Rocklin, and this really utilizes the city of Rocklin's logo for that gateway. And then alternative 2, landscape concept, very similar to alternative 1. The only difference is we don't have the pedestrian bicycle overcrossing. We would still maintain the oak trees in this area, but the pedestrian bicycle would go under, and so we'd have to go into this exposed granite along the north side of Rocklin Road more, but we would still try to maintain that character of exposed granite as you're walking through that area or driving through that area. And then here's the City of Rocklin monument sign as you come off the eastbound off-ramp. Right now it's off to your left, but we would move it to the median between the left and right turns, so that as you're coming off, you can see a direct picture of the city of Rocklin. And that would be the same for alternative 1 and alternative 2. And just to wrap up here, as we open it up to questions, the total cost estimate for alternative 1 is $42 million. The total cost estimate for alternative 2 is $45 million. So there is a $3 million difference in these two alternatives. And that's something definitely the city's taking into consideration as they try to secure funding. We do have a plan for federal funding. We've already been meeting with Congressman Kiley in DC, and we also gave a project tour in November and December of last year. And then there are receptions, and the California Transportation Commission will be in town in Rocklin and Roseville next week that will be working to secure funding for the project. Of course, in 2024, there are other opportunities. The Placer County Transportation Planning Agency is looking at a South Placer County sales tax measure, and projects like the Rocklin Road interchange are being proposed as part of that measure. And then there's also the Senate Bill 1, the gas tax that was passed in 2017. There's several programs, competitive programs that are coming up in 2024. The project schedule is similar, but it's changed a little bit. We're looking at environmental approval by the spring of 2023. So we'll get into a little more details of that, but then we'd go into design and right-of-way acquisition through the end of 2024. And depending on the alternative that is selected, alternative one, we believe would take 2 years of construction. So be open to traffic by the end of 2026. And alternative two, we believe would take about 3 years of construction. So be open to traffic by the end of 2027. And with that, we want to open it up to questions, and hopefully we can provide answers.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Luke, for a fantastic presentation. We do have some great questions that have came into the chat box. I would encourage anyone, if you have any other questions about the project or the next steps, to please put it into the chat box. And then once we get through the chat box questions, if anyone wants to raise their hand, we have plenty of time here to answer all the questions. So the first question came from Dave. Was an urban exchange considered? It requires just a single lane of traffic, multiple applications here in the West from Phoenix to Portland. Mike, I know that you wanted to jump in here.
Sure, yeah. And so those are commonly referred to as single point urban interchanges. And one was not considered this location, and I'll jump into why. The real main reason with that is those interchanges have a very large footprint where that crossover happens in the middle. And that would be at the location of where the current bridge is. And so that would require a reconstruction of the current bridge. And as I mentioned, it's very large. So the bridge would probably double or triple in size. And so it really becomes a cost measure. Also, they do not work well with high skewed interchanges like this one. And so that is the reasoning that was, we never actually followed forward with a design for that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. Sonia, I do see that your hand is up. I'm going to go through your chat box questions first, and I'll get to your hand at the end. This might be a question for Matt, and I'm not sure. Is there an update on how many students are actually on campus these days? As a business owner, she's been seeing a significant amount of less students around.
Luke, I don't have that number. I know students are not back to the full pre-COVID numbers as of now, but Sierra College is also encouraging their students to use the Sierra College interchange since they built that parking garage off Sierra College Boulevard at Stadium entrance. So Sierra College has actually physically moved their address to Sierra College Boulevard instead of Rocklin Road now. So if anyone's using GPS, it takes them to the other interchange usually.
Wonderful.
I'll just add at one time, there's 14,000 students there. We did hear at the start of this academic year that 70% were back. So not 100%. And obviously that's fluctuating depending on classes offered.
Wonderful. And Tanya, I just unmuted you if you want to ask your second question.
Yeah, commenting on that, I'm not seeing that change, right? I'm right there, Rocklin Road, I-80. I'm not seeing students back in. I am not seeing that change. So I'm just wondering where these numbers are coming from. And I just am trying to make sure these numbers are actually accurate, because I am not seeing students coming in. And if they do, they come in one day a week, maybe because it's a class that's required for a 1 day requirement. And I talk to, we're a hands-on owners, so I'm there and we talk to, our customers and stuff. So it's just, I just don't feel like it's actually, the numbers don't reflect actually what is going on, is what's my concern there.
Fair enough. I do think a lot of students, like Matt said, are coming in Sierra College interchange now. I know my daughter attends Sierra College, so I also talk to her regularly and hear kind of what's going on campus.
Sonia, did you have a second question? Did I mute you again? I am so sorry. I just asked you to unmute again.
I had like a couple questions, but my second question was, so I'm right there on Rocklin Road, and where we have the salmon, like the little river and that little overpass, the homeless community has now accumulated there. There's a big homeless issue there. And I'm just wondering how we're taking this into account when we're building these trails and everything else. Like, that's a big concern for me for safety, even if we're talking about, our Sierra College children, because I have kids that are like, in junior high, and they're going to be starting going to high school and starting going down this path. And it's just like this homelessness and safety. What are we doing to protect the safety?
That is an issue that is separate than the project. The project, we're not trying to encourage homelessness as part of the project. That's why the alternatives that we're presenting now took into the account of, closed off undercrossings or anything like that. I would strongly suggest working with our code enforcement and police department. They're the ones that are the lead for the city for the unhoused outreach, and they should be of assistance to you.
Wonderful. All right, Sonia, I didn't know if you have some more questions, but we're going to get to some of the chat box, so I can definitely circle back. Gary has asked, he agrees that there's certainly a need for a safer way for pedestrians and cyclists to go through Rocklin Road. He was wondering if there was something that we can do in the meantime until the project is underway, like adding green painted bike lanes for better awareness, especially as vehicles merge onto I-80.
That is something we can look at. I will defer that to the engineering team, because I'm not sure if we have any available space to mark actual bike lane under there. Mike or Luke, can you confirm that?
Yeah, I think that'd be an issue of, painting green lanes to the interchange, but then not being able to get through. And there's just not enough room under there. That's why we are creating a separate bicycle pedestrian path, because we just can't facilitate that 4-foot wide sidewalk is being used by pedestrians and bicyclists, and it's just not adequate.
Got it. All right. So Michael asked, what is the vehicle capacity change by doing a reverse diamond traffic flow compared to the current bottleneck? Maybe Luke?
I can
Mike,
I can jump on that if you want.
well, I just want to add one thing. I think when you think about capacity of a 4-lane roadway, it can hold so much traffic, but really we have a traffic operational issue here where we have 750 vehicles. At least we did when Sierra College was in full session. Sierra College does anticipate to come back 100%, attendance, and they're growing. So we have 750 vehicles that are coming out of Sierra College in the afternoon and trying to turn left onto westbound Interstate 80. And so right now with the signals, you have a short left turn lane getting on that westbound on-ramp, and it's backing up all the way to Eldon and beyond. What we're doing here really is adding 3 lanes that's going to help facilitate traffic getting through that first signal. And then there'll be a free movement onto the westbound on-ramp. And that's really going to clear up all the traffic congestion along Rocklin Road. And that's why the diverging diamond interchange avoids the issue of going through 2 traffic signals like today, and only requires vehicles to go through that 1 signal before they can get on the on-ramps.
Got it. I do see Lawson with your hand up. We have a couple other questions just want to get to really quick. I also want to bring people's attention to the chat box. We have some follow-ups for the questions that we had. Eric Skinner from Sierra College is on the call, and he wanted to let us know enrollments are growing back up from pandemic lows. They're seeing more students take online courses than before, about 50% compared to 25% before the pandemic. But he's more than happy to talk with anybody about the enrollment. And then Dana had a quick question about the lacking of the space of the green striping, that maybe we can place a signage that say bikes may take full lane, or work with maybe the Sierra Foothills Club on some type of signage there. All right. Going back up through our questions. So Mason asked, are traffic calming measures such as at grade raised crosswalks being considered to improve vehicle pedestrian conflicts?
Mike, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the traffic calming aspects of a diverging diamond interchange, but I will say Rocklin Road is a major arterial. I don't want to say major, but it is an arterial through the city. It really connects east and west. And so typically you're doing traffic calming measures like speed bumps in residential areas where it's 25 miles per hour. But I'll let Mike talk a little bit about the natural traffic calming of a diverging diamond interchange.
Sure. And just to answer this question directly, yes, we are, going to have raised medians there. And, if you kind of think back to the graphics that you saw there, all those islands that were split to direct traffic, those will all be raised islands. And as we saw, some will be landscaped. But one thing also to keep in mind is right now, Rocklin Road it's a straight shot. If you hit both greens, cars are going 45, 50 miles an hour there. And the way that these crossover intersections are designed is really, they are naturally calming traffic measures. We're designing traffic here to be going 25 miles an hour as we go through the curvature. So, it's, for example, if a cyclist decides to stay in the lanes, at least they'll be dealing with slower traffic in that kind of 24, 25 mile an hour range.
Got it. There was also a follow-up question with the, do you know the average noise level around adjacent to the highway? The landscaping I think is nice, but maybe high noise levels could make that added travel time a bear.
Mad Frank, can you help me out with this question?
Yes, just getting myself off video. What's one of the foundational parts of this project is, what's the noise environment in general, and how's it going to change as a result of this project? That drives a very important conversation about how much noise analysis is necessary. And, with the, major highway Caltrans project like this, it leads to questions about sound walls and things. And so the criteria that's used is, are you a type 1 project that requires that quantitative analysis? And, based on what we're seeing with this project, we don't meet the criteria. So, we have lots of hard things to do. One of the hard things we don't have to do is based on a very strict Caltrans criteria, do quantitative analysis of noise measurements. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's not nearby residents that would be affected by this. There's businesses, there's other people that are hearing things. But if there are no residences or other types of uses, there's something of a no harm, no foul approach that is taken. And so, when we ask for detailed data on noise, that's one thing. So I have to respond by saying we don't have the detailed data, but that's the reason why, is because we don't have the sensitive receptors that drive us to collect that data.
All right. Thank you, Matt. I want to go back really quickly to the capacity question, because I'm not sure if we answered what Michael was looking for. He's asking, what does the model suggest the increase in capacity would be?
Michael, I'll say right now, if we don't do anything, we're looking at 2048. It's absolute gridlock along Rocklin Road for, all the way back to Sierra College Boulevard along Rocklin Road and into downtown on the other direction. With the diverging diamond interchange, we're able to facilitate traffic so that it's not backing up along Rocklin Road. And so it's a significant operational improvement. So if there's 38,000 cars per day on Rocklin Road in 2048, the diverging diamond interchange can facilitate that almost 40,000 cars a day. Whereas if we keep it as it is today, it seems like 23,000 cars per day is kind of nearing capacity, if that's helpful.
Great, thank you. Steve had asked, is the project dependent on the voters passing the South Placer County sales tax in 2024 in order to obtain the matching funds?
Well, currently we don't have all of the funding. We have been going after grants. So Luke had mentioned we're looking at some federal grants in this coming year. So any additional funding sources that become available to us do help fund the project. So in a roundabout way, it is kind of dependent, but we are looking for other funding sources in case that measure does not pass.
Great. Thank you for that. The next question we have is, just lost it. Does the plan include striping the bike lanes through the traffic circles?
So I want to, when you say traffic circles, I assume you're talking about the roundabouts to the west of the interchange that currently exist. And I need clarification on that. Yes, I see your head nodding. So if you look at those roundabouts, is what I'm going to call them, along Rocklin Road, right now there's ramps. So if you're a bicyclist, as you approach the roundabout, you actually take a little ramp up onto the sidewalk and utilize the sidewalk. So they're not bike lane striped through the roundabouts. And that's totally separate from this project, except that we would stripe the bike lanes green approaching the roundabouts, and then the bikes would go up on the sidewalk and then they come back into the bike lane.
Got it. All right, Mr. Loss or Mr. or Mrs., I'm not sure. I'm going to ask you to unmute since I know you've had your hand raised for quite a while. Thank you so much. You should be unmuted. Did you have a question? No worries, we can work with you on your audio, but I'll circle back to you in just a second. So Steve asked if we could add a preemptive signal for cyclists turning left on Granite Drive onto eastbound Rocklin Road. They're having some difficulties in that area.
So as you're coming south on Granite Drive onto Rocklin Road, if you're taking the lane and you're using that left turn, I guess maybe that's what the question is. Right now, you would have to use the crosswalk or you take that left turn lane. I'm not sure if you want what you want there. I need more clarification.
Let me.
Hey, Luke, what I think they're looking for is, you know how some intersections have the painted bicycle logo for a loop, so the bicycles
The green box.
Yeah.
We definitely would. I mean, if you want to make that comment, that's something we could consider. We have not considered it to date, and I don't know that it's anywhere else in the city of Rocklin. I don't believe it is.
All right. Michael asked, is this an 11% local match project? Question mark.
Someone knows their federal funding.
They do.
I will say that that's a little tricky to answer, but I will say that the city has pulled together local and regional development impact fees and other funding sources that's considerably more than 11%. It's actually $16 million. So that is being used as a match, and depending on the alternative, you saw one is 42 million and one is 45 million. Depending on the alternative moving forward, that match is obviously going to be more than 11%, and that will make the project more competitive when we're going up against other projects at the state and federal levels.
Great. And again, lots of great comments about signage and some other things for our project team to consider into the comment. So again, into the chat box, please keep sending those. So again, we've got about 15 more minutes. So again, plenty of time for any more questions. So Dave has asked, as a retired city planner, he's concerned that the urban interchange concept was rejected. It assumed a new freeway overpass would be needed. Are there options for the single traffic signal / urban interchange? Were they even evaluated? Going back to that question.
No, they were not evaluated just because of like, as I mentioned before, it's really the size of that, based on, Caltrans has specific guidance for this and a lot of federal guidance for these style of interchanges. And based on the footprint of the bridge, especially when you're going underneath the highway, these become very long bridges. So it's, as I mentioned, it's probably 2 to 3 times the size of the existing one. And just the cost of that bridge alone would really make this that alternative, it would be uncompetitive. The options we showed were at 42 and 45 million. We'd probably be looking into the $60 to $80 million project range there.
Got it. All right, so it looks like that is the end of at least the questions, any clarifying questions or any project questions. But again, we are going to stay on the line here for the next few minutes. We have put the website into the chat box as well. So we please tell you to save the website, keep in touch with us as it goes. But I'm going to give it back to Luke for a second, just to go back over the next steps of the project. Oh, the flyover question. My apologies. We have more questions. I am not seeing it. Oh, flyovers have been interesting problems. Regional Transit's built at least 4 flyovers for bike peds, and they made changes to avoid people jumping over the flyovers. Is there a specific question when it comes to the flyovers? Here, Michael, I'm going to ask you to unmute as well if you want to talk about the.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes,
Thank
we can.
you.
Great. So flyovers have interesting problems where people dive over them to commit suicide. They walk in front of trains, the whole bunch. We have a lot of experience when I was executive at RT with people killing themselves with our equipment. And flyovers are one of those things that we built our flyovers so they couldn't climb over the wall on the side so they could jump onto the freeway.
Mike, just to answer your question, I mean, obviously fencing, if you see, fencing will be installed to prevent that.
Yeah, so it matters what kind of fence you put in so that they can't climb the fence. If you put a cyclone fence up, it actually has grab holds and all of that. So you put up either Israeli fencing or some other fencing material that they can't use the material as a climbing agent.
And as we get into design with Caltrans, you know, they have experience statewide with this that, you know.
I'm sure you've worked with SOMAS. SOMAS has done a bunch of those designs.
Appropriate fencing would be determined during design.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. Sorry for missing your question there. Again, lots of great comments. Carol had a fantastic comment into the chat box, which we really appreciate. Steve's talking a little bit more about kind of the turns and being with cyclists and experienced cyclists that don't use the bike ramps around the roundabouts. Again, these are great comments that we'll definitely take all into consideration as we move forward. I'm going to turn it over to Luke, but again, we still have 15 minutes. So if there's any more questions or if you want to raise your hand, please let us know. But I want to give Luke a quick time to just go over the next steps. And then Sonia, I did see you just raised your hand, so I can get you to unmute right after Luke gives a little spiel here.
So we really appreciate everyone. This is great that you're taking the time to learn about this project. We definitely encourage you to check out the project website, and we'll, I guess, like I said, upload the video there, have the meeting summaries there. And but I do want to give you a sense of what's coming up. So we have to work through an environmental process with Caltrans and the city. And so we're doing that this month with draft reports. Of course, we're having this community meeting today. And then the third thing you see there is approval of a draft project report. So this is Caltrans approval of the project and saying that the project can move forward. We will then have a state and federal environmental document public review. There'll be a 30-day review from March, likely, these are anticipated dates, March to April of this year. And then we'll get final Caltrans approval in May, and it'll go to the Rocklin City Council for selection of a preferred alternative. So ultimately, we appreciate your feedback on the different alternatives. We'll get feedback on the environmental document through the public outreach of the 30-day review. And then ultimately a preferred alternative will be selected. Once that happens in the May timeframe as anticipated, we'd then be able to move into design and right away on that preferred alternative.
All right, Sonia, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Well, I look back and find all of Michael's questions that I missed in here.
Yeah, there were a few in there. But my biggest concern as the business owner that is right there off of I-80 on the interchange, right there. What are we looking at as far as Caltrans supporting our driveway still being open for my gas deliveries, etc.? I haven't heard feedback back, and that's a concern for me and my business. And how long is this project gonna take? And my downtime and stuff like that. Where are we gonna get that information? And, I mean, it's detrimental to us as a business. So I'm just very concerned. And I'm all for opening, but I know, like I said, Sierra College does not have that many vehicles coming in and out from the college. So I'm just wondering where the perspective is and how, because it affects me, probably one of the most businesses that is going to be affected by this project.
So Sonia, I'll start with the first half of Caltrans has already agreed to the taking that existing abandoned roadway that's right next the old China Garden Road that's right next to your business. They have already agreed that converting that to a right out so your gas trucks can still get out and turn right back onto Rocklin Road. They understand that it would be detrimental to your business, and they've already approved converting that to a right out only. So everything that we have talked about when we met with you out at the business, they have approved for access. So so that part where that nothing is, we have not made any changes to access based upon since we met and kind of laid out that other option with you out at the site. So Caltrans has given us verbal approval for that. As far as the construction timeframe, I will give that to Luke and maybe Mike to discuss a little bit more in depth, but there's going to be impacts. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. During construction, there will be impacts. It's part of construction, unfortunately. So
are we going to get recompensated for this downtime?
So yeah, I'll just say, once the environmental documents approved, we're not actually acquiring any of right away from you, but there will be a temporary construction easement. So there will be a negotiation once the environmental approved. And the idea, of course, City of Rocklin wants to be a good partner. They want to maintain access to your business during construction.
They want to maintain access, but it's going to be detrimental to me, if that makes sense, like to my business access wise and everything and downtime. So I'm just wondering how we're going to get to an agreement on that.
And so what I can tell you is throughout design, we're going to keep the stakeholders and the public engaged to let them know what's going on and what the plans are. And again, once the environmental documents approved, we can discuss
and then
issues.
My other question was, is all this funding coming just from City of Rocklin, or are we using Placer County as well?
It's a combination. The city is putting in money from their development impact fees. PCTPA, the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, has a regional impact fee program. So that's the $16 million. And then the remaining funding amount would come from state and federal grants. And then, of course, there was the mention of the sales tax measure.
Okay. All right. So hopefully we can be in touch, and just if you could touch bases with me, I'd really appreciate it, and just keep me posted on once environmental is done, and so we know where we're at.
Absolutely.
Of course. All right, I have another question from Michael. Previously, the consultant said the off-ramp on the eastbound side going to the right would not allow a right on red. Seems like going to the right where there is not traffic should be allowed.
So I want to, I guess, Mike, you might have more to say about this. The eastbound off-ramp, right turn on red will be allowed.
So, sure, ultimately the operations of that signal will be up to Caltrans, but we have designed that, and there was a small change in the design since our last public meeting on this that makes sure that at that ramp terminal, we meet the necessary site distances that would allow the right turn on red. So as of the current design, right turn on red should be allowed there to make that happen. And that would be allowable for both lanes.
Great. Again, just reading through some of the comments, Peter commented lower speed limits within the roundabout areas and between them should be marked and enforced. Again, great comments. Just making sure that we hit everybody. And again, we are here for the last 5 minutes. So in case if anybody wants to raise their hand or ask any last questions, we'd be happy to take them in. Again, we're going to be, we recorded this meeting. We'll be posting it onto the website. The website link seems to be down at the moment, but it is the right website link. So we'll be working with the city of Rocklin to see what's happening there. But please save that link and stay up to date with us. Michael just asked, are the bike lanes bi-directional?
So leading up to the interchange, yes, the existing bike lanes out there, if you're going eastbound on Rocklin Road, it goes with the flow of traffic. And if you're going westbound on Rocklin Road, it goes with the flow of traffic. The trail that we would facilitate everyone between Granite and Aguilar will be two-way, just like any other trail. And typically you would have, people walk on the left and ride right. So there'll be that kind of pavement markings to facilitate bicycles and pedestrians so they're not running into each other.
All right. Sonia, I did see your hand pop up again. I'm trying to ask you to trying to ask you to unmute.
Yeah, I did.
Got it.
I had one more question. So I'm right there, that gas station right after Aguilar Road. Is there still going to be a way to turn in left coming Sierra
Yes.
College down to 80? That is another.
Yeah, the left turn access if you're coming from Sierra College to your business will be maintained.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was one of the things we had discussed and I wanted to make sure that was maintained. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. All right, Mason came in with the last question. The question about elevated crosswalks was in reference to the concern and conflict about the on-ramp, off-ramps, especially in alternative 2. Presumably traffic should already be slowing down at these points, especially with the crosswalks present. Are they intended to be signals to ensure that pedestrians get the right of way? Otherwise, it seems like there might be, otherwise it seems like enhanced traffic calming could be a good idea.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the things about alternative 2 that Sierra Foothills Cycling Club was concerned about. Unfortunately, with the speeds of traffic out there, we're not doing a raised crosswalk, and because they're turning onto a ramp, we're not able to signalize those because then they would back up onto Rocklin Road and result in a safety issue.
And Luke, just to add to that, for those specific turns that I guess that's the eastbound on-ramp, those are designed less than 20 miles an hour. So it is a little more traffic calm to that. And those crosswalks are made to be as visible as possible to traffic on Rocklin Road, so that they're not tucked behind a corner.
All right. And then it looks like the last question that we have is from Michael of what companies are consulting on this project? So besides ourselves at AIM Consulting and Jacobs, we have.
I was going to say, I believe majority of the team is all Jacobs Engineering. Our traffic analysis is being done by Fair and Pierce, and they are using AIM Consulting for public outreach. Did I miss anyone, Luke?
Pretty much has it. Wood Rogers is also involved doing our surveying, and Bender Rosenthal is involved doing the right of way.
Wonderful. Last question. Mason snuck one in. Thanks for hosting this listening, not that one, sorry. If the design speed is 20 miles per hour, are elevated crosswalks a concern for traffic flow?
I think that it would be difficult to get Caltrans approval for an elevated sidewalk within their right of way. And especially and maybe even the city for an arterial roadway like this. They're not typically on those kind of roadways.
Wonderful. Great. And again, with that, I really want to thank everybody for joining us for our third community workshop. This was fantastic. We had a lot of participation, a lot of great comments and questions that we'll take back to the team. Again, please stay in touch with us if there's anything else that you need. And this will not be the last time you hear from us. As this project moves forward, there'll be plenty of significant engagement touch points for us to be back in front of you. So again, with that, thank you so much for your last hour. We really appreciate your time and have a great rest of your night.